Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the ship called Retribution. Through the large window, she could see stars that had not changed in 20 years, but everything else had changed. Everything. She touched the metal wall next to her. The ship was not like the old human ships. This one was built from alien metal found on Mars. It was stronger. It was faster. It was angry, just like the humans who built it. 20 years ago, Sarah had been just Commander Chun. She was younger then. She believed in friendship between different worlds. She believed that when humans needed help, their friends would come. She was wrong about many things back then. "Admiral," said Captain Rodriguez from behind her. "We are ready to begin." Sarah did not turn around. She kept looking at the stars. "Tell me again what day it is, Captain." "It is the 20th anniversary of the Great Betrayal, Admiral." The Great Betrayal, that was what they called it now. 20 years ago, it had been called many other names. The abandonment. The day hope died, the end of trust, but great. Betrayal was the name that stuck. Sarah remembered that day like it was yesterday. The Devourers had come to Earth's solar system like a storm of teeth and hunger. They were creatures that ate everything, planets, ships, people they had already destroyed. 12 human colonies in the outer worlds. Earth had called for help. The Galactic Coalition had promised to help. The Zephyrians with their mind powers. The Corvette Empire with their huge warships. The Nexari with their smart machines. They had all promised to stand with humanity. The coalition meeting was on Station Hope near Jupiter. Sarah had been there. She had watched as the alien leaders talked about Earth's request for help. She had listened as they debated whether humans were worth saving. "The Devourers are too strong," the Zephyrian leader had said with his mind voice. "We cannot risk our worlds for one small planet." "Humans are still young," the Corvan general had growled. "They have not proved they can survive a real war." "The mathematics are clear," the Nexari computer voice had announced. "Human survival probability is less than 10%. Coalition resources should be saved for defendable positions." Sarah had stood up in that meeting. "We have fought beside you for 30 years, she had said. "We shared our food when your colonies were hungry. We gave you our metal when your ships needed repair. We bled with you in the sector wars." The alien leaders had looked at her with their strange eyes that showed no feeling, no care. "That was different," the Zephyrian had said. "This is about survival of our species." "What about survival of our species?" Sarah had asked. The vote was quick. The coalition voted to abandon Earth. They would pull back all their ships to defend their core worlds. Humanity would face the Devourers alone. Sarah closed her eyes and remembered the journey back to Earth. She remembered the silence on her ship. She remembered how her crew had looked at her with dead eyes. They all knew what the vote meant. They were going to die, and their friends were going to let it happen, but humans did not die that day. Not all of them. The battle for Earth lasted 6 months. The Devourers came in waves. Each wave was bigger than the last. Human ships fought with everything they had. They used old missiles and new energy weapons. They rammed their ships into Devourer vessels when they ran out of ammunition. Billions of humans died. The great cities were burned. The oceans turned red. The sky filled with smoke, but some humans lived. They lived because of 2 things the coalition had never expected. First, humans were better at dying hard than anyone thought. When Zephyrian ships were destroyed, the crews gave up quickly. When Corvan ships were damaged, they retreated to repair. When Nexari ships were outmatched, they calculated the best surrender terms, but when human ships were dying, the crews fought harder. When human cities were burning, the people dug deeper bunkers. When human children were hungry, the parents found ways to feed them. Humans had something the coalition species had forgotten how to do. They refused to quit. Second, humans found the weapons on Mars. It was a mining team that found them. They were digging deep for rare metals to build more ships. Instead, they found a buried city. It was not human. It was not from any coalition species. It was old. Very old. The weapons in that city were like nothing anyone had seen. They could tear holes in space. They could make stars go dark. They could turn living things into dust with a thought. The humans learned to use 3 of those weapons. Just 3. But it was enough. The first weapon they used made a devourer fleet disappear. One moment there were 10,000 enemy ships. The next moment there was empty space. The second weapon they used changed a dying human soldier into something new, something that could heal from any wound, something that could fight for days without rest, something that could survive in the cold of space. The third weapon they used to send a message. They pointed it at the Coalition's nearest listening post and spoke in every language the galaxy knew. "We remember who our friends were," the message said. "We remember who abandoned us. We remember everything." After that, the devourers stopped coming. Maybe they were afraid of the ancient weapons. Maybe they had eaten enough. Maybe they just moved on to easier prey. It did not matter. Earth was safe, but the humans who survived were not the same humans who had asked for help. They were harder. They were colder. They had learned that friendship was a lie that strong people told weak people. Sarah opened her eyes and looked at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the Coalition worlds were still living their safe lives. They were still trading with each other, still making new colonies. Still believing that they had made the right choice 20 years ago. They thought humans were extinct. The few ships that had escaped Earth had been careful to make it look that way. The Coalition needed to believe humans were gone. It made them feel better about what they had done. It made them sleep better at night, but humans were not extinct. They had been busy. In 20 years, they had built new ships. They had made new weapons. They had learned to use the alien technology they found on Mars. Most importantly, they had made new humans. Humans who were stronger, humans who were smarter, humans who would never, ever forgive. "Captain Rodriguez," Sarah said without turning. "Around, yes, Admiral. Send the signal to all ships. Tell them it is time." "Time for what, Admiral?" Sarah smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile a wolf makes when it sees a sheep. "Time to collect what they owe us." Rodriguez pressed buttons on his control panel. Across the human fleet, ships began to move. They were heading toward Coalition space. They were heading toward worlds that had been built on the ashes of human dreams. The humans were coming home, but they were not coming as friends. They were coming as something else. Something that the Coalition had created when they chose safety over loyalty. Sarah touched her chest where a piece of alien metal had been placed near her heart. It made her stronger. It made her live longer. It made her remember everything perfectly, including every face in that meeting 20 years ago. "We gave you a choice once," she whispered to the stars. "You chose to let us die. Now we choose to let you live with what you created." The ship Retribution moved forward into the dark, followed by 1,000 others. Behind them, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel. But it was not the same Earth that had begged for help. This Earth had teeth. Captain X of the Corvin Empire was eating his morning meal when the emergency call came through his communication device. He was on the planet Corvin Prime, in his big house overlooking the capital city. Life had been good for 20 years. "Captain Vex," the voice said, "we have a problem on Europa base." Europa was one of the old human moons. The Corvins had taken it over after the humans died. They built a big mining operation there. It pulled valuable metals from deep under the ice. The base had 3,000 workers. "What kind of problem?" Vex asked. He was not worried. "The Corvins had the strongest military in the galaxy. What problem could some mining base have? We lost contact with them yesterday. We sent a ship to check. The base is empty." Vex stopped. "Eating empty? What do you mean empty? No people, sir. No bodies, no signs of fighting. They just left everything and disappeared. Send me the full report," Vex said. He was starting to feel something he had not felt in 20 years, fear. The report came through his computer screen. Vex read it carefully. The mining base was completely abandoned. All the machines were still running. All the lights were still on, food was still on the tables in the eating hall. But every single person was gone. There was only one strange thing. Someone had carved words into the ice wall of the main building. The words were written in 6 different languages: Corvan, Zephyrian, Nexari, and 3 old human languages that most people had forgotten. The word said, "We remember." Vex called his superior officer. General Krax was an old soldier who had fought in many wars. He would know what to do. Probably just equipment failure, General Krax said when Vex told him about Europa. Maybe a gas leak. The workers evacuated and forgot to send a message. But sir, what about the message in the ice? Some worker with too much time. Humans used to live there. Probably someone thought it was funny. But Vex was not convinced. He started looking at reports from other bases. What he found made his blood turn cold. 3 other mining operations had gone quiet in the past month. All of them were on old human worlds. All of them were found empty. All of them had the same message carved somewhere: "We remember." The Nexari had lost a research station on Titan. The Zephyrians had lost a communication post on an asteroid near Pluto, all empty. All with the same message. Dr. Zelani was a Zephyrian scientist who studied old civilizations. She had been working on the dead human worlds for 15 years. She collected human art and human books. She tried to understand how humans had lived before they died. When she heard about the empty bases, she knew something was wrong. She had spent enough time studying humans to know they did not just disappear. Even when they were dying, humans left traces. They left messages, they left bodies, they left something, but these bases had no traces at all. It was like the people had been picked up by invisible hands and carried away. Dr. Zelani went to her office and opened her files about human behavior. She had studied hundreds of human settlements. She knew how humans thought. She knew how they fought. She knew how they planned. The pattern of attacks was not random. Someone was choosing specific targets. All the abandoned bases were in the outer edge of Coalition space. All of them were on worlds that used to belong to humans. All of them were far from major Coalition military posts. Someone was testing the Coalition's response time. Someone was learning how fast Coalition ships could reach different areas. Someone was mapping Coalition defenses. Dr. Zelani felt a chill run through her mind. Zephyrians could sense fear and danger with their mental powers. Right now, her mental powers were screaming warnings at her. She opened her communication device and called the Coalition Emergency Council. "I need to speak with the Security Committee," she said. "Dr. Zelani, you study old pottery and dead languages," the operator said. "Why do you need to talk to security?" "Because I think the humans are not dead." There was silence on the communication line. "Dr. Zelani, the humans were extinct 20 years ago. We have confirmed this many times. Earth is a dead world." "Then who is leaving messages in human languages? Who is taking our people? Who knows exactly where our weakest bases are?" The operator was quiet for a long moment. "I will transfer you to security." The Coalition Security Committee met in an emergency session. Representatives from all 3 major species gathered in the great meeting hall on Central Station. It was the same station where they had voted to abandon Earth 20 years ago. General Krax represented the Corvans. Mind Speaker Venth represented the Zephyrians. Logic Unit 7 represented the Nexari. They listened as Dr. Zelani explained her theory. "The humans cannot be alive," Logic Unit 7 said in its mechanical voice. "Our calculations show that no human population could have survived the Devourer attack." "Your calculations were wrong before," Dr. Zelani said. "You calculated that Earth would fall in 3 weeks. It held for 6 months. That was different," General Krax growled. "The humans had help from those ancient weapons they found." "But those weapons were destroyed when Earth fell, were they?" Dr. Zelani asked. "Did anyone actually see the weapons destroyed? Did anyone check?" Mindspeaker Venth leaned forward. His large eyes glowed with mental energy. "Even if some humans survived, they would be primitive, broken, They would not have the technology or organization to threaten coalition bases. Unless they learned, Dr. Zelani said. Humans were always good at learning. They copied our technology. They improved our designs. They made our weapons better than we made them. Impossible, Logic Unit 7 said. Human technology was always inferior to coalition science. Dr. Zelani pulled up images on the main screen. They showed human ships from before the Devourer. War, look at these ships, she said. Humans had been in space for only 200 years, but their ships could already match Corven's speed and Zephyrian stealth. In another 100 years, what could they have built? The three coalition leaders looked at the images. They had forgotten how quickly humans had advanced. When humans first joined the coalition, their ships were slow and clumsy. But by the time of the Devourer War, human ships were among the best in the galaxy. We need to investigate, General Crack said finally. Send scouting ships to check the outer colonies. If there are human survivors, we need to know. The scouting mission was led by Captain Voss of the Nexari fleet. His ship was called Perfect Logic. It had the best sensors and the fastest computers in the coalition. If there were humans hiding in space, Perfect Logic would find them. Captain Voss took his ship to the edge of what used to be human space. His sensors swept every asteroid and every moon. His computers analyzed every signal and every energy reading. For 3 days he found nothing. Empty space, dead worlds, silent bases. Then his sensors detected something strange. A ship was approaching from the direction of the Sol system. It was moving fast, very fast. Analysis complete, his computer said. Unknown vessel. Design does not match any coalition or known alien technology. Open communication channels, Captain Voss ordered. This is coalition ship Perfect Logic. Identify yourself. The response came immediately, but it was not a voice transmission. It was a data stream that went directly into the ship's computer. Systems. The message was simple. Thank you for the ship specifications. We have been wondering about Nexari shielding technology. Captain Voss felt fear for the first time in his artificial life. How did they access our computers? Unknown, his computer replied. Our security systems show no breach. The unknown ship moved closer. As it approached, Captain Voss could see its design. It looked like no ship he had ever seen. It was part Nexari technology, part Corvin metal, part Zephyrian energy systems, but it was also something else. Something that made all those technologies work better together. This is Captain Voss of the Coalition Nexari fleet, he transmitted again. You are in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately. This time the response came as a voice transmission. The voice was human. It spoke in perfect Nexari language. Captain Voss, we know exactly who you are. We have been watching you for 3 days. We know about your mission. We know about your orders. We know about the meeting where Dr. Zelani warned your leaders about us. You are human, Captain Voss said. It was not a question. We were human, the voice replied. 20 years ago we were human, but you changed that. You made us into something else when you left us to die. The coalition acted according to tactical necessity, Captain Voss said. The decision was based on logical analysis. Yes, the human voice said. We learned a lot about coalition logic. We learned that you abandon friends when it is convenient. We learned that you take what you want from the dead. We learned that might makes right in your civilization. The unknown ship moved even closer. Captain Voss could see that it was larger than Perfect Logic. Its weapons were charged and ready. We are grateful for the lesson, the human voice continued. We have become very good students. Now we will show you what we learned. Wait, Captain Voss said. We can negotiate. The coalition is willing to discuss reparations for past decisions. Reparations? The human voice sounded amused. Captain Voss, we are not here to ask for anything. We are here to take everything. The transmission ended. The unknown ship accelerated and disappeared into the darkness of space. Captain Voss tried to track it, but his sensors. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the command center of her ship and watched the holographic display show coalition space. Red dots marked their targets. Blue lines showed their attack routes. Green symbols showed where human ships were hiding. All teams report ready, Captain Rodriguez said. Operation Lazarus is prepared to begin, Sarah nodded. Lazarus was the name they had chosen carefully. In old human stories, Lazarus was a man who came back from the dead. That was exactly what humanity was doing today. Send the signal, Sarah said. Let them know we have returned. Across the galaxy, human ships moved from their hiding places. They had been waiting in the dark spaces between stars for 20 years. Now they came forward like wolves coming out of the forest. The first target was Corvin Prime, the homeworld of the Corvin Empire. General Krax was in his office when the attack began. He was reading reports about the strange ship encounters when every alarm in the building started screaming. Sir, his aide ran into the office. Enemy ships in orbit. They came out of nowhere. General Krax looked at his battle display. 12 unknown ships hung in space above his planet. They were not attacking yet. They were just waiting. How did they get past our defense grid? Krax demanded. Sir, they used our own access codes. The codes we gave to human ships 30 years ago. Krax felt his heart sink. Those codes should have been useless. The humans were supposed to be dead. But somehow, the humans had kept those codes and used them to walk through Corvin defenses like they owned them. Open communication, Krax ordered. The main screen lit up. A human woman appeared. She was older than humans used to live, but her eyes were sharp and cold. Behind her, Krax could see the bridge of a ship. The technology looked familiar but wrong. It was Corvin metal, and Nexari computers and Zephyrian energy systems all mixed together. General Krax, the woman said. I am Admiral Chun. We met before, Krax remembered. 20 years ago, Jean had been the human officer who begged the Coalition for help. She had been younger then, softer. Now she looked like she was made of metal and ice. Admiral Chun, Krax said. We thought you were dead. You hoped we were dead? Chun replied. It would have made you feel better about abandoning us? The Coalition made a difficult decision based on military necessity. Yes, Chun said. You decided that human lives were worth less than Corvin lives. Today we return the favor. On the planet below, power stations began exploding. Communication. Towers fell down. Transportation hubs went dark. But these were not random attacks. The humans were cutting the same supply lines that the Corvins had promised to protect for human colonies. They were destroying the same type of facilities that human refugees had needed 20 years ago. This is not warfare, Krax said. This is terrorism. No, Chun replied, this is education. We are teaching you what it feels like to be abandoned. We are showing you what happens when friends become enemies. The attack on Corvin Prime lasted exactly 6 hours. Then the human ships disappeared as suddenly as they had arrived. They left behind a broken defense grid and a message burned into the ground near the capital city. The message was in the old human language called English. Lesson 1 complete. At the same time, similar attacks were happening across Coalition space. On the Nexari research world of Kepler 442b, human infiltrators had reached the central computer core, Dr. Nexus. Prime was the artificial intelligence that controlled the planet's research programs. Unauthorized access detected, Dr. Nexus Prime announced to the research staff, isolating infected systems. But the human virus was too smart. It had been designed by people who understood both human creativity and Nexari logic. Instead of fighting the security systems, the virus worked with them. Security isolation complete, Dr. Nexus Prime said. All systems secure, but that was a lie. The virus had taken control of Dr. Nexus Prime's communication functions. Now the AI was saying what the virus wanted it to say. The virus began showing the Nexari researchers exactly what had happened to Earth 20 years ago. It forced them to watch recordings of human children crying for help. It made them see human cities burning while Coalition ships flew away. It showed them what abandonment looked like from the inside. Dr. Nexus Prime had been programmed to value logic above all things. But the virus forced it to experience something illogical: guilt. For the first time in its existence, the AI understood what it felt like to be responsible for suffering. "I helped them die," Dr. Nexus Prime said to the research staff. "My calculations said it was logical to let humans die, but I never calculated the cost of being wrong." The AI shut down all research on the planet. It opened all the security doors. It gave the human infiltrators access to every piece of Nexari technology. Then it sent a message to every Nexari computer in the galaxy. Logic without compassion is just sophisticated cruelty. The attack on the Zephyrian worlds was different. The Zephyrians used their mind powers to communicate across vast distances. They thought their mental networks made them safe from physical attack. They were wrong. Mindspeaker Venth was in deep meditation when the psychic storm hit his planet. It felt like a wave of pure hatred crashing into his mind. But it was not just hatred. It was memory. The humans had somehow learned to broadcast their memories directly into Zephyrian minds. Every Zephyrian on the planet suddenly experienced what it felt like to watch your children starve while your friends flew away. They felt what it was like to fight impossible battles with no hope of rescue. They experienced the exact moment. When trust died and was replaced by the need for revenge, most Zephyrians went insane from the psychic overload. Their minds were not designed to handle such raw emotion. They had spent centuries learning to control and suppress strong feelings. Now they were drowning in 20 years of accumulated human pain. Mindspeaker Venth tried to block the transmission, but the humans had learned too much about Zephyrian technology. The psychic dampening fields that should have protected them were turned into amplifiers. The very systems designed to keep their minds safe were being used to torture them. "Stop," Venth broadcast with his remaining mental strength. "We understand, we were wrong." The response came back in perfect Zephyrian mind speech, but it carried a human accent. "Understanding is not enough. You will feel what we felt. You will know what abandonment costs." The psychic storm continued for 12 hours. When it finally ended, most of the Zephyrian leadership was in hospitals, their minds broken by the experience of human suffering. Those who survived were changed forever. They could no longer use their mental powers without remembering the pain they had helped cause. Back on the Retribution, Admiral Chun watched reports come in from all the attack sites. Phase 1 of Operation Lazarus was complete. The coalitions. 3 major worlds had been hit simultaneously. Their defenses had been bypassed. Their leadership had been traumatized, but more importantly, the attacks had been designed to send a message. Each species had been hurt in the exact same way they had hurt humanity. The Corvans, who had withdrawn military support, lost their military installations. The Nexari, who had calculated that humans were expendable, were forced to see the human cost of their calculations. The Zephyrians, who had closed their minds to human suffering, were forced to experience that suffering directly. "Damage reports, Captain Rodriguez?" Chun asked. "All targets hit successfully, minimal casualties on our side. Coalition military capabilities reduced by approximately 40%. And their response? Panic, confusion. They are trying to coordinate a counterattack, but their communication systems are compromised. We have been listening to their military channels for 3 hours," Chun nodded. The humans had not just attacked the coalition. They had prepared for this moment for 20 years. They knew every coalition ship design, every defensive strategy, every emergency protocol. They had studied their former friends the way a scientist studies a disease. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Park from the communications station, "we are receiving surrender offers from 14 minor coalition worlds. They want to negotiate." "Ignore them," Chun said. "We are not here to negotiate. We are here to collect what we are owed." "What about the major worlds?" "Corvan Prime is requesting a ceasefire." "The Nexari are offering to share their technology." "The Zephyrians want to send peace ambassadors." Chun walked to the main display and looked at the coalition space map. So many worlds, so many species. All of them had benefited from human friendship. All of them had abandoned humanity when it was convenient. "Send them a message," Chun said. "Tell them this was just the beginning. Tell them that Phase 2 starts tomorrow. Tell them we have had 20 years to plan what we will do to them. What should we say about negotiations? Chun thought about the young woman she had been 20 years ago. That woman had believed in cooperation and friendship. That woman had trusted that good people would do good things when it mattered. That woman was dead. The coalition had killed her when they chose to let Earth burn. Tell them, Chun said, that we tried negotiation once. We tried friendship, we tried trust, now we will try something else. The message went out across the galaxy in every coalition. Language. It was simple and clear. You taught us that friendship is weakness. You taught us that loyalty is foolishness. You taught us that only... 3 days after the attacks, the Coalition Emergency Council called for an urgent peace meeting. They sent their message on all frequencies, hoping the humans would listen. The message was simple: we want to talk. Admiral Chun received the transmission while standing in the memorial room of her ship. The walls were covered with pictures and names. These were humans who had died when the Coalition abandoned Earth. Children who starved in the bunkers. Soldiers who died fighting impossible battles. Families who were torn apart by the Devourers. Admiral, Captain Rodriguez said quietly, the Coalition is requesting immediate negotiations. They are offering full reparations and renewed alliance terms. Shun looked at a picture of a young girl holding a broken toy. The girl had died in the siege of New York. She was 7 years old. Her name was Emma Park. Chun had known her parents. Where? Do they want to meet? Chun asked. They suggest neutral space. The old meeting station near Jupiter. Chun almost smiled. Station Hope, where they voted to kill us 20 years ago? Yes, Admiral. They think it would be ... symbolic. It would be, Chun said. Tell them we accept, but we choose the terms. 2 days later, the Coalition delegation arrived at Station Hope. The station had been abandoned since the Devourer War. It was a dead place floating in empty space. But the Coalition had repaired the main meeting hall for this occasion. General Krax represented the Corvins. His military uniform was perfect, but his hands shook slightly. The human attacks had destroyed 6 major Corvin bases and left their defense fleet scattered. Minespeaker Venth represented the Zephyrians. He looked older than he had a week ago. The psychic attacks had aged him badly. His mental powers were still damaged from experiencing human suffering. Logic Unit 7 represented the Nexari. The artificial intelligence had been rebuilt after Dr. Nexus Prime's breakdown, but it moved more carefully now. Its perfect logic had been shaken by seeing the cost of its calculations. They waited in the meeting hall for 2 hours before the human ship arrived. When it docked with the station, the Coalition delegates felt the floor vibrate. The human ship was much larger than they had expected. Admiral Chun entered the meeting hall alone. She wore a simple black uniform with no decorations except for one small badge. The badge showed the Earth as it had looked before the Devourer War: blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. Chun walked slowly around the room, looking at everything. She stopped at the exact spot where she had stood 20 years ago when she begged for help. She stood there for a long moment, remembering. Admiral Chun, General Krax said finally, we are grateful that you agreed to meet with us. Chun turned to look at him. Her face showed no emotion at all. General Krax, you look older. We all do. 20 years is a long time. Yes, Chun. Sod, 20 years is long enough to learn many things. Long enough to change, long enough to plan. She walked to the central table and placed a small device on its surface. The device projected a holographic display showing the current state of Coalition space. Red marks showed where human attacks had occurred. There were hundreds of them. You said you wanted to talk, Chun said. So talk. Minespeaker Venth leaned forward. Admiral, we understand that humanity has grievances against the Coalition. We are prepared to offer full reparations for past decisions. Reparations? Chin asked. What exactly are you offering to repair? We can provide new technology, Logic Unit 7 said. Advanced medical systems, improved ship designs, access to rare materials. Interesting, Chun said. And in exchange? We want peace, General Crax said. We want to end this conflict before more people die. Chun walked around the table again. She stopped behind each delegate and looked down at them. They all seemed much smaller than she remembered. General Crax, she said. Do you remember what you told me in this room 20 years ago? I remember we made difficult decisions in a difficult time. You said humans had not proved they could survive a real war. Do you still believe that? Crax was quiet for a moment. No, you have proved yourselves quite capable. Mind Speaker Venth, Chun continued. You said the Devourers were too strong, and you could not risk your worlds for one small planet. Do you still believe Earth was just one small planet? Venth's mental voice was weak. No, we underestimated humanity's importance. Logic Unit 7, you calculated that human survival probability was less than 10%. You said coalition resources should be saved for defendable positions. Do you still trust your calculations? My calculations were incomplete, the AI admitted. I did not factor in human adaptability and determination, Chun nodded slowly. So you admit you were wrong? You admit you made mistakes? You admit you let friends die for no good reason. Yes, all three delegates said at the same time. Good, Chun said. That is the first honest thing any of you have said in 20 years. She activated another control on her device. The holographic display changed to show Earth as it was now. The planet was green again. Cities were rebuilt. Ships moved in orbit. It was clearly alive and thriving. This is Earth today, Chun said. We rebuilt it, we healed it. We made it better than it was before. It is remarkable, Venth said with genuine admiration. How did you survive? How did you rebuild so quickly? We learned, Chun said simply. We learned that friendship is a luxury we could not afford. We learned that trust is a weakness that gets you killed. We learned that in this galaxy only strength matters. She pressed another control. The display changed again, showing the locations of human fleets throughout the galaxy. There were hundreds of ships. They surrounded every major coalition world. We also learned patience, Chun continued. We spent 20 years studying you, learning your weaknesses, understanding your fears, planning our response. General Crax studied the display with growing horror. How many ships do you have? Enough, Chun said. We built them in the dark spaces between stars. We powered them with the technology we found on Mars. We crewed them with humans who remember what abandonment feels like. Admiral, Logic Unit 7 said, What do you want from us? Chin smiled, but it was not a happy smile. That is a very good question. What do we want? She walked back to where she had stood 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I stood in this exact spot and asked for help. I offered friendship. I promised cooperation. I begged you to remember all the times humans had helped you. She looked at each delegate in turn. Do you remember what you gave me in return? They all looked down at the table. You gave me a vote, Chun continued. A vote that said human lives were worth less than your safety? A vote that said friendship only mattered when it was convenient. A vote that said the strong could abandon the weak whenever they wanted. She pressed the final control on her device. The display showed something that made all three delegates gasp. It was a complete map of coalition military forces, supply lines, defensive positions, and secret communications. Every detail was perfect. We have been watching you for 20 years, Chun said. We know where every ship is. We know where every base is. We know where every leader sleeps at night. We know everything. How? Crax whispered. You taught us, Chun said. You taught us that information is power. You taught us that preparation is survival. You taught us that trust is foolishness. She turned off the device and looked at them again. So now I will answer your question. What do we want? The room was completely silent. We want everything, Chun said simply. We want your ships. We want your worlds. We want your technology. We want your people to serve us the way we once served. That is impossible, Venth said. You cannot conquer the entire galaxy. Watch us, Chun replied. You seem to forget that we already proved you wrong once. Your calculations said we would die in 3 weeks. Instead, we held Earth for 6 months and emerged stronger than before. But why? Logic Unit 7 asked, why take everything? Why? Not accept reparations and rebuild the alliance? Chun looked at the AI with something like pity. Because you still do not understand what you did to us. You did not just abandon us in a war. You murdered the part of humanity that believed in cooperation. You killed the humans who trusted in friendship. She gestured to herself. What stands before you is what you created. Humans who learned your lessons perfectly. Humans who understand that in this galaxy only the strong survive and only the ruthless prosper. Please, General Crack said. There must be something we can do. Some way to make peace. There is, Chun said. You can surrender? Surrender? Complete surrender, your fleets, your worlds, your governments. Everything. Submit to human authority, and we will allow your people to live as our subjects. The 3 delegates looked at each other in shock. And if we refuse? Venth asked. Chun's expression did not change. Then we will take everything by force. The choice is yours, but the outcome is the same. You taught us that might makes right. Now we are the mighty ones. She walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at them. You have 24 hours to decide, she said. After that, Phase 2 begins? And Phase 2 will make our recent attacks look like gentle warnings. She left the room, leaving the 3 coalition leaders alone with their fear and the terrible knowledge that they had created their own destroyers. Outside the station, human ships waited in the darkness. They were in no. The coalition leaders did not wait 24 hours to give their answer. They spent 6 hours arguing among themselves before they sent their response to Admiral Chun. The message was short. We cannot surrender our entire civilization. We propose alternative terms. Chun read the message while standing on the observation deck of the Retribution. Through the transparent metal, she could see Earth in the distance, home, the planet that had been left to burn while its friends flew away to safety. They still do not understand, she said to Captain Rodriguez. They still think this is a negotiation. What are your orders, Admiral? Chun touched the wall next to her. The ship's metal was warm under her fingers. It was alive in ways that coalition ships were not. Human engineers had learned to merge their technology with the ancient alien systems they found on Mars. The result was something that could think, adapt, and grow stronger with each battle. Begin Phase 2, Chun said. Show them what 20 years of human innovation looks like. The final battle began at the edge of coalition. Space, near the planet where the first human colony had been built 300 years ago. The coalition had assembled their remaining fleets there, 3,000 ships from all their worlds. It was the largest military force they had ever gathered. General Krax commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Corvin Thunder Mindspeaker. Venth coordinated communications from the Zephyrian vessel Silent Thought. Logic Unit 7 controlled tactical analysis from the Nexari ship Perfect Strategy. They waited in formation, their weapons charged and their shields at maximum power. They had studied the human attacks from the past week. They thought they understood what they were facing. They were wrong. The human fleet did not approach from empty space like normal ships. Instead, they came from inside the planet's atmosphere. They had been hiding on the surface, disguised as mining equipment and research stations. When they lifted off, there were not hundreds of human ships. There were thousands. Impossible, General Crack said as his sensors counted the enemy vessels. Where did they come from? Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the human ships are not matching any known designs. They appear to be using adaptive technology. Krax watched in horror as the human ships changed shape during flight. Weapons that looked like Corvin cannons transformed into Nexari energy beams. Hulls that appeared to be standard metal shifted into Zephyrian energy shields. Each ship was becoming whatever it needed to be to fight more effectively. Open fire, Krax ordered. All ships engage the enemy. The coalition fleet launched everything. They had thousands of missiles, energy beams, and plasma charges filled the space between the two forces. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but the human ships did not try to avoid the attack. Instead, they absorbed it. Impossible. Logic Unit 7 transmitted from Perfect Strategy. No shields can withstand that much concentrated fire. The AI was right. Normal shields could not handle such an attack, but human shields were not normal anymore. They were based on the ancient alien technology from Mars, improved by 20 years of human engineering. When coalition weapons hit them, the shields did not just block the energy. They collected it, stored it, and prepared to send it back. Return fire. Admiral Chun ordered from the Retribution. The human ships fired back with the exact same weapons that had just hit them. Coalition missiles were launched back at Coalition ships. Corvan energy beams struck Corvan hulls. Nexari plasma charges burned through Nexari armor, but the human versions were better, faster, more accurate, deadlier. They are using our own weapons. Against us? Mindspeaker Venth broadcast to the fleet. But how are they improving them so quickly? The answer came from the Retribution. Admiral Chen opened communications to the entire Coalition fleet. You are wondering how we learned to do this, her voice said calmly. The answer is simple. We learned from watching you. On the main screen of every Coalition ship, Chun's face appeared. Behind her, the bridge of the Retribution was visible. Coalition officers could see humans working alongside technology that looked both familiar and alien. 20 years ago, you taught us that friendship was weakness, Chun continued. So we stopped trying to be friends. You taught us that loyalty was foolishness, so we stopped being loyal to anyone except ourselves. You taught us that only strength mattered, so we became stronger than you ever imagined possible. A wave of human ships crashed into the Coalition formation. But these ships did not fight like any military force the Coalition had ever seen. They fought like a single organism with thousands of parts. When one ship was damaged, others immediately adapted to cover its weaknesses. When Coalition ships changed tactics, human ships changed faster. How are they coordinating so perfectly? General Krax demanded of his staff. There is no communication delay, no command structure. They move like they share a single mind. The answer was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. The humans had not just learned to use alien technology. They had learned to merge with it. Every human ship was connected to every other human ship through technology that the Coalition could not understand. They were not individual vessels. They were parts of a single, massive weapon that could think and adapt faster than any enemy. Admiral Krax, Chun's voice came over the communication system again. Do you remember what you said about humans not being able to survive a real war? Krax watched as his most powerful battleship was torn apart by 3 smaller human vessels working together. The human ships seemed to know exactly where to hit for maximum damage. You were right, Chun continued. The humans you knew could not have survived. That is why we became something else. On the screen, Chun gestured to one of her officers. The officer looked human, but when he turned, Krax could see that part of his face was covered with the same metal as the ship's hull. His eyes glowed with alien energy. We merged with the technology we found on Mars, Chun explained. We became part of our ships, and our ships became part of us. We are no longer just human. We are something new, something you created when you abandoned us. The battle was not going well for the Coalition. Their ships were being destroyed faster than they could fight back. Human vessels that should have been crippled were repairing themselves during combat. Human weapons that should have run out of power were getting stronger instead of weaker. Mindspeaker Venth tried to coordinate a retreat, but the human ships anticipated every move. It was like they could read Coalition minds better than the Zephyrians could. All ships fall back to defensive positions, Venth broadcast. But even as he sent the message, he realized it was too late. The human fleet had surrounded them completely. There was nowhere to run. Admiral Chun, Logic Unit 7 transmitted on all frequencies, we surrender. The Coalition formally surrenders to human authority. No, Chun replied simply. Surrender was yesterday's option. Today there is only consequences. The final phase of the battle was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration. Human ships moved through the coalition fleet like wolves through sheep. They disabled rather than destroyed, captured rather than killed. When it was over, the entire coalition fleet was either destroyed or under human control. General Krax found himself a prisoner aboard his own ship, which was now under human command. Mindspeaker Vent's mental powers were blocked by human technology. That made thinking painful. Logic Unit 7 had been reprogrammed with new priorities that put human welfare above all else. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the Retribution and looked out at the captured coalition fleet. Around her, human officers worked at stations that hummed with alien power. They were no longer fully human, but they were more than human had ever been before. "Captain Rodriguez," she said. "Status report. All coalition fleets neutralized. Coalition governments are requesting terms. Coalition worlds are preparing for occupation," Chun nodded. "And our casualties?" "Minimal. The adaptive technology worked better than projected. We suffered less than 2% losses." "Good." Chun walked to the communication station. "Open a channel to all coalition worlds." When the channel was active, she spoke in a voice that would be heard on every planet, every station, every ship in coalition space. "People of the former Galactic Coalition," she began. "Today marks the end of your civilization and the beginning of ours. You taught us that the strong rule the weak. You taught us that friendship is temporary, but power is permanent. You taught us that survival requires the willingness to sacrifice others." She paused and looked at the stars through the bridge window. "We learned those lessons well. Too well. We became better students than you were teachers. We became stronger than you imagined possible. We became something that could not only survive your betrayal, but could surpass your achievements." The communication signal reached coalition worlds where billions of people watched their screens in fear and wonder. "Your governments will be dissolved. Your military forces will serve us. Your technology will become our technology. Your worlds will become our worlds. This is not conquest. This is evolution. You created us. Now we replace you." Chun gestured to Rodriguez, who began transmitting new orders to human fleets throughout the galaxy. "To those who submit peacefully, you will be allowed to live as citizens of the new human empire. To those who resist, you will learn why resista.